Well, hey, hi, hello, my friends. This is Jenny with the Cageless podcast. And today, I was just telling our guests before we started that I'm so excited because her and I are probably like a 20-minute walk from each other right now. But she's my first person that I've interviewed in Paris this year. This is my dear friend, Allie. Hi, Allie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so
Yes, we're so excited to have you on Cageless today. So, I'm going to do a brief introduction and then I'm going to let her sprinkle in any details. But Allie is a professional dancer at the Moulin Rouge. She is also an influencer, creator, and clothing designer. Did I miss anything? Because I feel like you kind of run the world.
That's the list for the moment. But yeah, it's a busy life, but I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, perfect. Well, the story behind how Allie and I met, we're not just internet friends, which so many of the Cageless podcast guests, we do just meet through the ether of the internet. But Allie and I met at our neighborhood coffee shop because we both live near the Moulin Rouge here in Paris, France. But we randomly met one like rainy afternoon in Paris. And she was sitting with a group of girls and I was sitting there like with my dog and I like overheard them speaking English. And I think, did you guys just start talking to Copper? I don't remember.
Yeah, there was something along those lines. But I think it was really the English that you picked up on, and then also the barista who was Canadian picked up on. So like, just naturally, we all just started chatting and butted into each other's conversation, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, another English speaker in Paris? That's my age."
Yes.
I don't like. It was so coincidental, but so obviously we were all in the same place at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good day because that was like a year ago now. And just like the whole neighborhood group, mostly of girls, there's a couple of boys, but mostly of girls have just kind of stuck together and kind of created a sweet little community. But as Ali mentioned, the barista at the coffee shop that we go to is Canadian, which is also where Ali comes from. So Ali, would you mind sharing a little bit of how you came from Canada to Paris?
Yeah. So, long story short, I auditioned for the Moulin Rouge a little bit on a whim. I was studying at University of Toronto at the time, and I was studying kinesiology, and a piece of me was just really missing the aspect of like performing and dancing and auditioning. And even though I knew in my head I would be working professionally in some way, shape, or form in the dance world after university or doing little gigs throughout university, I had never really considered stopping and doing a contract or taking a break from studying and to do a contract. But audition posting for the Moulin Rouge came up on my Google search one night, and I was in second year university, so not even halfway done. And I had this feeling that I had to go. It was so strange. Like, of all auditions, there was no hesitation because obviously everybody knows what the Moulin Rouge is, and we all know the Broadway show and we all know the movie so well, but I didn't realize that the cabaret show here in Paris was still kicking it. And they were still, obviously, it's a dance-based show, so they hired dancers, not dancer-singers or singer-dancers. So it kind of fell in the perfect spot for me. And I without hesitation, booked a flight out to Vancouver and went out there the following weekend to audition. Fortunately, it was a very successful audition. And 6 months later, I was given a contract. Of course, that contract fell right at the time that COVID-19 hit. So I spent 2 years training for Mulan and making sure I stayed as flexible as possible and as fit as possible with gyms closed and dance studios closed throughout the pandemic like we were all trying to do. And then once everything kind of reopened afterwards, this was in September 2021, I was kind of given the green light to come over to Paris. And that's when I moved. It was such a whirlwind, but weirdly the timing I think worked out for the better because I was able to finish university before I came. Those 2 years, I think I grew so much as a person. I lived by myself for the first time. My fiance now, at the time, it was our first time that we kind of really had time together to establish. We had basically every night, all night free, both of us, because there was, like I said, no gyms, no dance studios, whatever. So our relationship really grew during that time. I was working on film sets at the time as well, just to make some extra cash. And that was one of the only things that was open. So it was cool. Like, I got all this experience in my field, also was able to finish my studies, grow my relationship, kind of grow as a person as well. And moving to Paris, the timing was so much better, I think, after those 2 years, as opposed to coming when I was supposed to 2 years prior. So it all works for the better, and I'm so happy to be here. And now it's been 3 years. So I'm celebrating my 3-month Paris anniversary actually this week.
That's so exciting. So, yeah, definitely all a whirlwind. But have you always had that kind of sense of bravery in yourself to just kind of go after what you want? Or like, is that something like, what were you like as like a kid?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think it comes from being the oldest child in my family. I didn't have an older sister who danced to look up to. My parents didn't dance. My parents like worked all the time. My dad's a banker, my mom's a teacher, so I just always saw like a drive in them, like just daily natural motivation. You get up, you work, you do your thing, you come home, you chill, you spend your money well. Like it was just a very natural and obviously like really good energy to be around as a kid. I think naturally and subconsciously I was catching on to that. And then when I got to, I don't know, I think the age of 12, 13, I started like going on Google by myself to look up dance auditions, which was like so crazy because I feel like nowadays, maybe more so still the dance mom still does that for the kid. So I feel like now looking back, that was a very young age of me to be doing that. One of the first things I chased was there was like this whole era of being on Team Canada for dance. And it was the equivalent of like going to the Olympics for your sport. But you could go to like, you'd fly to Europe and some country in Europe would be hosting the world championships of dance. And to be on Team Canada was like the thing in 2010 to 2020, I would say. It was like this like decade of I don't know, it's still going today. But anyways, I was dying to be on this Team Canada dance team. And I spent 2 years chasing this and I auditioned and I organized my mom to drive me to all these auditions and places and classes and rehearsals and stuff. And finally, when I was 12, I made the team and I ended up coming to Copenhagen and she was kind of just along for the ride. She's like, okay, like she obviously did her research and knew what we were doing and had an idea of like where I need to be when, but it was me coordinating everything and like me telling my mom, okay, I need to do this, I need to be here, I need to whatever. So I think like just because that was a very successful trial at doing that, it's just kind of stuck with me. And that kind of led into, I auditioned for a Disney Channel show when I was a kid. And it took multiple years, but I did end up getting the role. And I don't know, I've had, even though it's taken a long time and there's been a lot of no's throughout the way, I just knew that like, if I just kept working hard at it, there would always be a yes at the end. So same kind of thing with Mulan, like even though it closed, I was like, surely in 2 years when they reopen, it'll be a yes and I'll like be able to move. So I think it's just been this like natural instinct of mine to just keep going until it actually does work out. And work out the way I want it to. So it's, it's been so interesting. And it's interesting because I've never actually had like a true mentor that I've been following their footsteps. I feel like I've just been creating that, but it's just been off of personal experience since a young age.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like the more creatives that I talk to, the older that I get. Yes, there are like the Nepo babies that like their parents were in the industry or like they did have the dance moms, but it's like, I even think of like Sabrina Carpenter, who's like just now like really going into stardom. She's been at this for forever. Like, I mean, she's in her 20s, but she's been doing this since she was a little kid. And she wasn't like this like super like A-lister for forever. Like she also started on Disney and like she's like really built this resiliency and like self-starter like type of character in herself. And you can really see that in like the maturation of her music and like how she holds herself as like, you know, a superstar now. And I really see that in you too, because like you've also built a audience online. So on TikTok, you make daily vlogs about your life at Moulin and you like do everything yourself. Like you produce it, you film it, you edit it. Can you tell me kind of how that started? Like, was there a plan or was it just kind of organic?
It was kind of a mix of both, I would say. Growing up and like in my teenage years specifically, I was such a YouTube junkie. Like I would go to YouTube if I needed just any type of entertainment. I was not really into Netflix, not really into series, but I had my select few of vloggers that I would go to on a weekly basis to watch their new videos. And I loved that aspect of YouTube where I could like see into somebody's real life and learn something about something I have no idea about. I wouldn't think I'd be interested in it, but I watched the whole thing and I learned so much from it. So I really liked that aspect of it. And then when TikTok kind of became a thing, I was realizing that was translating over to TikTok. And between watching all these YouTube bloggers and stuff, I always had this urge to like want to do it myself, of course, as everybody does. And we've all had our trial and error with like our own YouTube channels and whatever. And I have a few videos up on mine that are just like funny to look back on because I was like trying to do dance trends or like trying to like teach choreography or like I have like some dance videos in a forest, like so random. And I was really trying to like make it happen on YouTube, and it just didn't work. But I think the main thing now looking back is that it just took so long to produce like a 20-minute video or like a dance production video. Like it's the proper like people that are into like producing video content, I guess you could say, in a totally different nature than TikTok. And I think TikTok has been so popular because it bridges the gap between like wanting to do that, but it only takes you 20 minutes to edit a minute vlog that's vertical. You know what I mean? So I think because that has really just gone crazy and honestly become obviously more popular than YouTube, I would say at this point, I just tried to jump on it because I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do something like this. I felt like I did have the personality to just make something like nothing interesting, I guess you could say. And I don't know, it was just also like an external outlet for like to be more creative. And I get to grow a community, and I was kind of all about that. During the pandemic, I did like a little bit of a personal training group online, and I really loved the community aspect of it, like having friends that weren't necessarily obviously physical friends there with you, but having that online community. So I was just drawing from all aspects of my life and all interests. And I was like, you know what, let's just give this a shot. And it was kind of right at the start of the day in the life era on TikTok when people were like, come with me for a day in the life. And it would be like the most random person, like a garbage collector. And I would watch the entire thing at the back. Like, not that I care, but like I did. And it was so interesting. And I found anything like that so interesting. So I was like, you know what, I probably could do this for Moulin Rouge backstage. And I just decided to wing it one day. And I literally propped my phone up right on my stove behind me, and I clicked play, and I just kind of went with it. And I showed a little bit of the backstage, but I was respectful of the fact that like I know not everybody wants to be on camera. I know Moulin Rouge obviously is a brand behind itself, and I didn't want to show or tell too much that they don't. So I just said what the general population already knows. Like, we have this many costumes, like, and we have this many dancers. This is how long the show runs for. Like, it's nothing that's new. And I think it was the way I was telling the story. People just latched onto it. And I woke up the next morning after posting that video, and it had 2 million views. And I was shocked because I had been doing like little Instagram things and little YouTube things, of course, like I told you, for the longest time, but I didn't take it seriously by any means. And the fact that I had just like thrown together this video the night before, spent 20 minutes piecing it together, threw some captions on it and posted it. And then I woke up 12 hours later and it was popping off. It was crazy to me. So I saw the potential there right away. And that was kind of my motivation to keep going with it. And since then, I've just been doing vlogs, daily vlogs, outfit checks, little Paris facts, something small every day, and been posting, and it's grown a following, which has been so cool. So it's been a little creative adventure of mine, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of like when we were like in like middle school or whatever, and like we would have like our first camera, or like we would just be making things that just like went along with our life. And I think that really translates, because as a person who I used to create so much more online than I do now, but like I think that's kind of where community is cultivated, is like when you're actually doing things from like what you care about and what you know. Like if you've been watching YouTube videos since you were a kid, like obviously you're an expert in that. You don't need a film degree to make good content online, because like if you are your own like best audience member, or if you are your ideal, viewer, then like you're gonna make good stuff. So when you woke up with those like 2 million views, is that kind of when you thought, okay, maybe I can like make something of this?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what gave me the push to keep going with it. And not that I was doing it for the purpose of getting views or anything, but it was even just the comments. Like, people were so positive, so interested. Whether it was like the aspect of Moulin Rouge, whether it was the aspect of me just auditioning and doing all these things in line to like push to get the job, but all on my own terms. Whether it was like, I was telling some fun facts about like how our dressing rooms are upstairs. So we actually have to climb 2 flights of stairs in between every number. There's 20 numbers in a show. That means 40 numbers a night. Like, it just like small facts like that were really catching people's attention. And it was interesting because it was just like there was nothing negative. Like, you could scroll the thousands of comments and there was not a negative thing to be said. And I was just like, I was intrigued by that, because I was like, you know what, it's so crazy, because you just think online there's always going to be both sides. Like, there's going to be black and white and there's going to be whatever. I don't know. It just like, it really took me by surprise. And I was like, you know what, maybe this could be something so cool that I don't even know the potential of yet. But I genuinely also just liked making the videos. So I was like, you know what, it It takes so much less time than YouTube. I felt naturally decent at it, and people were liking it. So I was like, I don't see a reason why not to keep going. And yeah, it just worked.
Yeah. And I love that all of your videos you bring, the internet can be like a very dark and negative space. I would say like 80% of it. And you bring such like a light, hopeful, like entertaining feeling into really everything that you do.
Thank you.
Which brings me to my next point of your fashion brand, which is like the cutest, most like efficient, adorable concept. So if you can tell us a little bit about Freddie.
Yeah, so my clothing brand is called Freddie. And essentially I decided to create this brand because as a kid, we were wearing these like comfortable onesies around, like especially like before ballet class and stuff, over top of our like leotard and whatever, just to stay warm. It was like a warm up, I guess you could say. And it was a super comfortable, oversized overall, I guess you could say, to picture it. It's got 2 straps, just like an overall does. It's got an elastic band kind of at the top of the bust. And then the rest is just like something that's very comfortable, warm, oversized, and it comes in different materials. When I arrived at Mulan, I hadn't worn one of these since I was like 7. And when I arrived at Mulan, all the girls backstage were wearing them. And I was like, wait a minute, this is genius, because at the Moulin Rouge, we have costume changes back to back. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter or quicker. And it was just like something that was so convenient, but I had never realized how much of a need this could, or potential this could have in the normal dance community. So after I saw it, I was like, you know what? First of all, I need to get my own. And I realized that one of the seamstress at Mulan was actually making them. So I went up to her, I asked her for one, and it was good. Loved it. There was just like a few things that like personally I would have added to it that like I didn't realize it was missing. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I could just maybe contact somebody externally to make this again, but with all my changes on it. So I did. And they made a sample basically for me and shipped it to France, and I got it. And I was like, you know what? This is amazing. Like I wore it at work and I was like, has all the things it was missing. It has like sweatpant pockets. It's got a pocket in the back, but it fits your phone. Like it's got a little bit of extra room like on the back side so that you're not like uncomfortably, like when you're stretching, it's not stretching up in places it probably shouldn't be. And there was like I wanted to have a shorter option, so I made it into a romper as opposed to full length pants. So like there was just like all these little small tweaks that I made that I loved. And one of my friends at the show as well, Georgia, she's Australian and she's got a very good business mindset, and I knew that just because she comes from a family of business owners and her partner is a business owner, and I knew she had been talking about wanting to do something for a while. And I asked her, I was like, she actually asked me, she's like, would you want to do something together? And I was like, sure, what about this? And she was like, let's do it. So we kind of had the idea, like, I don't know, it was about a year before Freddie actually launched. And we spent a year going to the same cafe. We sat on the same table and we like just creatively designed how this business was going to come to be. Neither of us had business degrees. I knew nothing about owning a business other than the fact that like I kind of wanted to move into the world of working for myself. I just didn't know how that was going to happen. I didn't know if it was going to be TikTok. I didn't know if it was going to be owning my own business. And we decided to make some drawings. We got an actual designer to draw it out and make tech packs for us, which is basically like the measurement chart for any type of garment that you make. We put together the details of like colors, fabrics, all these things. We got a bunch of samples shipped to us. She found a manufacturer amongst many that we got samples from that we really liked. I designed the logo. Throughout this process, we kind of figured out that I had a different skill set than she did. She was very logistical communications girl, and I was more so what the customer sees, like the storefront. So anything that was creative, and I think that kind of drew off of the whole like making videos and doing all these things. So I could create a logo just by like picturing what I pictured to look like and what the brand color needs to be and the vibe the brand needs to give off. And anyway, so we just kind of put our skill sets together, and Freddie came to be a year later, and it's been going amazing ever since. I think it's grown into something that neither of us even planned for it to become. We kind of just did this as a little bit of a side hustle, and to be completely honest with you, it's becoming a full-time job, and it's needing the hours of a full-time job to keep growing and flourishing into what we want it to be. So anyways, it's been going amazing, and we're so happy with how it's been growing. So now we have 4 collections out and multiple colors. We have multiple sizes. We have a kids collection, and It's huge in the dance community, but also we're realizing that the general population is discovering ways on how they can wear it themselves. So it's really cool.
Yeah. It's so funny because like I think when people meet you, they're like, oh, you do like TikToks. And I'm like, no, Allie's like a like entrepreneur mogul. I don't think you understand like the time and the energy and like the creativity that goes into your day-to-day life, which is so cool because I know you and I grew up in like the Nickelodeon, like Disney Channel era where like, you know, we see like Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, Miley Cyrus, and that's awesome. Like I think that the way that those careers were built were great, but they seemed very, at least to me as a young creative, like very like one-way track. Like there were gatekeepers. There was like, you had to go to this Disney audition. You had to know someone. You had to do this. And it's really cool that we live in 2024. And like, how old are you? What are you, 26? 25? And like you can build an entire career and like community, which I think community is even more important than like the career itself, around your ideas and like around your brain and like your creativity and your heart and things that serve you. Like, can you imagine like telling your 5-year-old self, like, actually, you're going to get to live your dreams. And they'd be like, well, how do you do it? And you're like, you do it for yourself.
Exactly. I know, it's crazy. And it's also one of those things, it's like, I feel like I like to keep that like in the back of my mind always, because I feel like a lot of people get to the stage where like they develop a following or they start a business or they get like their dream job at Paris and they just like shut off to the world being like, I have made it. I am separate. I am doing this. I am like, not gatekeeping, but gatekeeping. Like they don't want to share how they got the audition. They don't want to share how they got to where they are, like the things that they had to do to put into it, because they don't want anybody to reach their level. And that blows my mind. I'm like, why the heck would you not want to just help the next girl that was you? I just don't get that. So I think one of the biggest things I really try to loop in, especially to my content, because it's easy and I can reach a lot of people, is like, if I can do anything like that, like I came from a very small farm town with very little opportunity, one dance studio, like no big sister, like to follow the footsteps in. And I've just been watching and learning, I think, my whole life, and I've been figuring it out. So I hope that like somebody else out there that's watching or listening or whatever, that's trying to do something like that, is watching and listening, but in a different way. And obviously I'm trying to make it just that much easier to watch, because I'm like, it is so doable wherever you are and whatever you're doing to kind of do whatever you want to do. And I know that's as cliche as it sounds, but it's so true. And I think you have a very good point with the whole Selena Gomez era and like that whole Disney Channel era as a kid. Like that was not accessible to anybody. And as much as all of us wanted to be Hannah Montana, like you were not going to be. Like it was just, you just couldn't do that because your mom wasn't, or your dad wasn't Billy Ray Cyrus. Like it was just one of those things that just wasn't naturally available. And I think TikTok and social media and all these things have really opened up this world of like, you can kind of become your own thing if you want to. And it's cool. It's really cool. It's like a self-made journey in a sense, I guess you could say. But
right.
I don't know. I'm trying to roll with it, but also like not gatekeep it, because I think you have a very good point.
Exactly. So that brings me to our last question, which we were talking a little bit like about our childhood selves. But if you could go back and tell like your 10-year-old self anything today, like if I could like get her in on this call, what would you say to her?
I don't know. I think I get asked this a lot. And I think the biggest thing is like, you don't have to wait for the opportunity to come to you. You can just make it. And I think that I learned that many times, because like the Moulin Rouge audition was in Vancouver. I lived in Canada, which was the other side of the country. Like if I didn't just up and book that plane ticket, go for literally one night across the country to audition, put on heels that I've never worn before, do the French can-can in an audition room, which I had never trained in, like, and also go to an audition where I knew not a single soul. Like if I wouldn't have just made that opportunity for myself, it wouldn't have happened, because Moulin Rouge wasn't coming to my street to audition, you know? So I think like that's one of the biggest things. And that's kind of been like a narrative throughout my entire life, is like, you just kind of have to show up and make it as most worthwhile as possible. But also I think showing up and making the opportunity for yourself is like one of the biggest things to start from, because nothing would have come to be if it wasn't for me booking my plane ticket and taking the initiative to like get to that spot to kind of make it happen. So
right. Yeah. what I don't remember who said this. I know she's like I want to say like Viola Davis or another like really like successful actress that was like, you know, opportunities can come like a bus can come, but like you have to like take the action to get on the bus. You have to have the ticket. You have to be prepared to get on when it does come. Like it's not going to like lift you up and put you in a seat. You know, like it takes both effort and luck and opportunity. But I think that you've done such an amazing job at seizing all of the opportunities that they didn't come to your doorstep, that you know, kind of flew towards and worked really hard towards. So I really appreciate you sharing your story. And can you tell our Cageless listeners how they can connect with you online?
Yeah, so my handle on Instagram and TikTok is Allie Goodbun, and I post daily content on both pages actually, and those are the places I'm the most active.
Perfect. And we'll link Allie's Ready Freddy, all of her fashion wear below as well.